Sometimes the most brilliant minds hide behind the quietest voices. What happens when those who mistake silence for stupidity push too far? This is the story of how intelligence became the ultimate weapon against cruelty. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Riverside High School buzzed with its usual morning chaos as students flooded through the main entrance, their voices echoing off the polished linoleum floors. Among the sea of chattering teenagers, one figure moved almost invisibly through the crowd. Maya Chun walked with her head down, clutching a worn leather satchel that had belonged to her grandmother. Her dark hair fell like a curtain across her face, shielding her from the judgmental stares that seemed to follow her everywhere. Maya had learned long ago that being invisible was safer than being noticed. At 17, she had already mastered the art of blending into backgrounds, of choosing seats in the back corner of classrooms, of eating lunch in the library where the noise of her peers couldn't reach her. But what her classmates didn't know, what they couldn't see past her second-hand clothes and quiet demeanor, was that Maya possessed one of the most extraordinary minds their school had ever seen. Her backpack didn't just contain textbooks and notebooks, like everyone else's. Hidden beneath her biology homework were advanced calculus problems she solved for fun, quantum physics journals she'd ordered with her part-time job money, and a small notebook filled with her own mathematical theorems. Maya had been teaching herself college-level subjects since she was 14, devouring knowledge with the same hunger other teenagers had for social media and parties. The first period bell rang, and Maya slipped into her advanced placement history class, taking her usual seat in the back row by the window. Mrs. Patterson, a kind woman in her 50s who had taught at Riverside for over 20 years, was writing discussion questions on the whiteboard about the Industrial Revolution. Maya already knew the answers to every question, had read extensively about the topic far beyond their textbook, but she would never raise her hand. Speaking up meant drawing attention, and attention meant becoming a target. "All right, class," Mrs. Patterson announced, turning to face the room. "Let's discuss the economic factors that led to the rise of factory systems. Can anyone give me an example of how technological advancement changed labor practices?" Hands shot up around the room. Tyler Morrison, the star quarterback with perfectly styled blonde hair and a Letterman jacket that seemed permanently attached to his shoulders, waved his hand enthusiastically. The cotton gin made it so they needed fewer workers but could produce more cotton, he said with the confidence of someone who had skimmed the chapter the night before. Mrs. Patterson nodded encouragingly. "That's a good start, Tyler. Can anyone expand on that? How did this technological shift affect the workers themselves?" Maya's mind immediately went to the complex socioeconomic implications she had studied in her advanced readings. She thought about the displacement of skilled artisans, the rise of the wage labor system, the terrible working conditions that led to the formation of early labor unions. Her notebook was filled with detailed analyses of primary source documents from factory workers of the era. But she remained silent, absently tracing patterns on her desk with her finger. "What about you, Maya?" Mrs. Patterson's voice cut through her thoughts. "You've been quiet this semester. I'd love to hear your perspective." The room fell silent. Maya felt every pair of eyes turn toward her, and her heart began to race. She could feel the familiar flush of anxiety creeping up her neck. In the second row, she noticed Brittany Walsh exchange a smirk with her best friend Jessica Reynolds. Brittany, with her perfectly straightened platinum hair and designer clothes, had made it clear from day one that she considered Maya beneath her notice. I don't really know," Maya whispered, her voice barely audible even in the quiet classroom. "Come on, Maya," Mrs. Patterson encouraged gently. "You always do excellent work on your written assignments. Surely you have some thoughts about this topic." Maya's cheeks burned. She did have thoughts, volumes of them, but the words stuck in her throat. She shook her head slightly, looking down at her desk. Maybe she's too busy reading fairy tales to learn real history, Brittany whispered, just loud enough for the students around her to hear. A few snickers rippled through the room. Mrs. Patterson shot Brittany a warning look. That's enough. Let's move on to the next question. But the damage was done. Maya spent the rest of the class period feeling the weight of curious and pitying stares. When the bell rang, she was the first to pack up her things and hurry toward the door. Maya, could you stay for just a moment? Mrs. Patterson called out. Maya's stomach dropped, but she waited as the other students filed out. Brittany made sure to bump into Maya's shoulder as she passed, nearly knocking her books from her arms. I'm sorry about what happened there, Mrs. Patterson said once they were alone. I know you know the material. Your essays are some of the most insightful I've ever read. You have a real gift for analysis and critical thinking. Thank you, Maya mumbled, not meeting her teacher's eyes. I just want you to know that you don't have to be afraid to speak up in class. Your voice matters, and your ideas are valuable. Sometimes the quietest students have the most important things to say. Maya nodded, but they both knew she wouldn't change. The hallways of Riverside High were not kind to those who stood out, and Maya had learned that lesson well. As she walked to her next class, Maya's mind wandered to the conversation she'd overheard between her parents the night before. Her father, a night shift janitor at the local hospital, had been discussing their financial situation with her mother, who worked double shifts at a nursing home. They were doing everything they could to make ends meet, but money was always tight. Maya's clothes came from thrift stores and donation bins. Her school supplies were bought with carefully saved grocery money. And her part-time job at the corner bookstore barely covered her personal expenses. She knew what the other students thought when they looked at her. They saw her faded jeans with patches on the knees, her oversized sweaters that hid her thin frame, her worn sneakers that had seen better days. They saw someone who didn't belong in their world of name brand, everything and weekend shopping trips to the mall. What they didn't see was the girl who had taught herself 3 programming languages, who had been accepted into a prestigious summer mathematics program at the State University, who had written a paper on renewable energy solutions that had caught the attention of a professor at MIT. Maya kept these achievements to herself, partly out of shyness and partly out of fear that revealing her true capabilities would only make her more of a target. Her second period was a P chemistry, where she sat in the back corner of the lab, partnered with Kevin Murphy, a quiet boy who was more interested in his phone than in balancing chemical equations. Maya didn't mind doing most of the work. She found the precision of chemistry soothing. While Kevin pretended to take notes, Maya carefully measured reagents and calculated molarity with the kind of accuracy that impressed even Mr. Rodriguez, their teacher. Excellent work as always, Maya, Mr. Rodriguez commented as he reviewed their lab results. Your calculations are perfect and your methodology is flawless. Have you given any thought to pursuing chemistry in college? Maya shrugged, not wanting to admit that she had already been researching doctoral programs in chemical engineering. Maybe, she said quietly. During lunch, Maya made her way to the library. Her safe haven. Mrs. Henderson, the librarian, had become something of a mentor to her over the years. The older woman had noticed Maya's voracious reading habits and had begun ordering special books for her, challenging texts that pushed her intellectual boundaries. I have something for you, Mrs. Henderson said with a smile, pulling a book from behind the circulation desk. It's a new publication on artificial intelligence and machine learning. I thought you might find it interesting. Maya's eyes lit up, the first genuine smile of the day crossing her face. Thank you so much, Mrs. Henderson. I've been wanting to learn more about neural networks. I figured as much. You know, Maya, there's a statewide academic competition coming up next month. It covers mathematics, science, literature, and critical thinking. I think you should consider entering. Maya's smile faded. I don't know. Competitions like that are usually for the honor students, the ones who are in all the clubs and have perfect GPAs. Your GPA is nearly perfect, Mrs. Henderson pointed out. And your knowledge base is far beyond most students your age. You have a gift, Maya. You shouldn't hide it. But Maya knew better than to hope for such things. Students like her didn't win academic competitions. Students like her stayed in the background, invisible and safe. As she settled into her favorite corner of the library with her new book, Maya tried to lose herself in the complex algorithms and mathematical models. But her concentration was broken by the sound of familiar voices from the next aisle over. Did you see her in history today? Brittany's voice carried clearly through the quiet library. She just sat there like a deer in headlights. I don't even know why she's in AP classes. She probably cheats on her tests. Maybe she copies from other people's papers, Jessica added with a giggle. She's always so quiet, like she's trying to hide something. Or maybe she's just really, really stupid and doesn't want anyone to know, Brittany replied cruelly. I mean, look at her clothes. Her whole family is probably a bunch of losers. Maya's hands trembled as she gripped her book tighter. She wanted to stand up, to tell them they were wrong, to defend herself and her family, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she sat frozen, listening to them tear apart everything she was and everything she came from. You know what we should do? Brittany's voice took on a conspiratorial tone. We should really mess with her. Make her see that she doesn't belong here with the rest of us. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. What do you mean? Jessica asked, clearly intrigued. I have an idea. Remember in elementary school when they used to make kids wear dunce caps when they were stupid? Maybe it's time someone reminded Maya of her place. Their laughter echoed through the library as they walked away, leaving Maya alone with her racing heart and growing dread. She had no idea what Brittany was planning, but she knew from experience that when Brittany Walsh set her sights on someone, the results were never good. The rest of the day passed in a blur of anxiety. Maya found herself constantly looking over her shoulder, waiting for whatever humiliation Brittany had in store for her. She hurried from class to class, keeping her head down even more than usual, trying to make herself as small as possible. In her final period, AP Literature, Maya tried to focus on their discussion of To Kill a Mockingbird, but her mind kept wandering to Brittany's words. The irony wasn't lost on her that they were discussing a book about prejudice and judgment, while she was being targeted for the very same reasons. When the final bell rang, Maya packed her things quickly and headed for the exit. She just wanted to get home, to the safety of her small bedroom, where she could surround herself with her books and her thoughts without fear of judgment. But as she pushed through the heavy front doors of the school, she noticed a crowd gathering in the parking lot. Students were pointing and laughing, their phones out, recording something. Maya's stomach sank as she realized she was looking at a circle of students, and in the center of that circle was a familiar figure. Tyler Morrison stood in the middle of the crowd, holding something in his hands. As Maya got closer, she could see what it was. A white paper cone, crudely made but unmistakably shaped like the dunce caps from old cartoons. Written across it in black marker were the words, May Y Ace. Thinking cap. Where's our little genius? Tyler called out, his voice carrying across the parking lot. Maya, we made you something special. The crowd erupted in laughter as students began chanting her name. Maya felt her face burn with embarrassment as dozens of eyes turned to look for her. She wanted to run, to disappear, to be anywhere but there, but her feet seemed rooted to the spot. There she is. Brittany's voice cut through the noise like a knife. She pushed through the crowd, her expression triumphant. Maya, we have a present for you. Maya's heart pounded as Brittany approached, flanked by Tyler and Jessica. The crowd pressed closer, forming a tight circle around them. Maya looked around desperately, searching for an escape route, but there was nowhere to go. "We thought you might need some help with your thinking," Brittany said with mock sweetness. "Since you're always so quiet in class, we figured maybe you're just not very smart. So we made you this." She gestured to Tyler, who held up the dunce cap with a cruel grin. "Come on, Maya. Put it on. Show everyone what you really are." Maya shook her head, backing away. "Please, I just want to go home." "Oh, but you can't leave yet," Brittany exclaimed. "Not until you put on your special hat. It's custom made just for you." The crowd began to chant again, their voices growing louder and more insistent. "Put it on, put it on, put it on." Maya's eyes filled with tears as she realized there was no escape. She was trapped, surrounded by her peers who saw her as nothing more than entertainment. In that moment, she felt smaller and more powerless than she ever had in her life. But somewhere deep inside, beneath the fear and humiliation, something else was stirring. Something that had been dormant for too long, waiting for the right moment to emerge. As Maya looked around at the faces of her tormentors, each one eager to see her broken and humiliated, she felt a spark of something she had never experienced before. It was anger, pure, focused, and surprisingly powerful. For the first time in her life, Maya Chun was truly angry, and that anger was about to change everything. The dunce cap sat heavy on Maya's head as the laughter of her classmates echoed around her. The white paper cone felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds, pressing down on her shoulders with the weight of their expectations. She could feel the marker ink from Maya's thinking cap, bleeding slightly in the afternoon humidity, the letters becoming smudged reminders of her humiliation. "Look at her now," Tyler shouted, his voice carrying across the parking lot. "Finally wearing something that matches her intelligence." Maya stood frozen in the center of the circle, her hands trembling. At her sides, the phones pointed at her from every direction felt like weapons, capturing this moment to be replayed endlessly on social media. She could already imagine the posts, the comments, the way this single moment would define her for the rest of her high school career. But as she stood there, something unexpected happened. The anger that had sparked moments before began to grow, fed by every cruel laugh and every pointed finger. Maya had spent years absorbing the casual cruelty of her peers, letting their words and actions wash over her like waves against a shore. But now, for the first time, she felt something pushing back. "Take a picture," Brittany commanded, posing next to Maya with a triumphant smile. "This is going to be perfect for our social media. #DunceCapChallenge." Jessica eagerly complied, snapping photos from multiple angles. "Oh my God, this is hilarious. Maya looks like she's about to cry." But Maya wasn't crying. Her eyes were dry, and behind her glasses, they were beginning to burn with something none of them had ever seen before. She reached up slowly and touched the edge of the dunce cap, feeling its rough texture beneath her fingertips. "Actually," Maya said quietly, her voice barely audible over the crowd's noise. The laughter began to die down as people strained to hear what she was saying. "Actually what?" Brittany demanded, stepping closer. "Are you finally going to admit you're not as smart as you pretend to be?" Maya lifted her head, and for the first time in years, she looked directly into Brittany's eyes. "Actually, I was thinking about the historical origins of the dunce cap." A confused murmur rippled through the crowd. This wasn't the reaction they had expected. "The dunce cap was named after John Duns Scotus," Maya continued, her voice growing stronger. "He was a 13th century philosopher and theologian, one of the most influential thinkers of his time. His followers were called dunsmen or dunces, and they wore pointed caps as a symbol of their learning." Brittany's confident smile began to falter. "What are you talking about?" "The pointed shape was supposed to funnel knowledge from the heavens into the mind," Maya explained, her hand still resting on the cap. It was actually a symbol of intelligence and scholarship. The idea that being a mark of stupidity didn't come until much later, when people had forgotten the original meaning. The crowd was growing restless. This wasn't going according to plan. They had expected tears, maybe some begging, possibly Maya running away in shame. They hadn't expected a history lesson. So basically, Maya said, her voice now carrying clearly, across the parking lot, you've actually given me a scholar's cap. Thank you. Tyler stepped forward, his face red with embarrassment and anger. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you're better than all of us? I don't think I'm better than anyone, Maya replied calmly. I just think it's interesting how symbols can change meaning over time. Like how the swastika was originally a symbol of good fortune in many cultures before it was corrupted by hatred. The comparison hit its mark. Several students in the crowd shifted uncomfortably, beginning to sense that the power dynamic was shifting in ways they didn't understand. You're just a freak, Brittany spat, but her voice lacked its earlier confidence. A weird little freak who thinks she's smarter than everyone else. I don't think I'm smarter than everyone else, Maya said, finally reaching up to remove the dunce cap. She held it in her hands, examining it like a fascinating artifact. But I do know that intelligence isn't measured by how loud you are or how many people you can hurt. It's measured by how you use your knowledge to understand the world around you. She looked around the circle of faces, many of which were no longer showing amusement, but confusion and even a little fear. For instance, I know that bullying behavior often stems from insecurity and a need to establish dominance in social hierarchies. It's actually a primitive response that's been observed in many species. Shut up, Tyler shouted, lunging forward, as if to grab the cap back, but Maya stepped aside with surprising grace, her movement fluid and controlled. I also know that public humiliation as a form of social control has been used throughout history by those who fear the power of knowledge. The Spanish Inquisition, the Salem witch trials, even the Cultural Revolution in China. People have always been afraid of those who think differently. Mrs. Henderson appeared at the edge of the crowd, having been alerted by another teacher who had witnessed the confrontation. What's going on here? She demanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had dealt with teenage drama for decades. Nothing, Mrs. Henderson, Maya said calmly. Just a little impromptu history lesson. Did you know that the dunce cap was originally a symbol of learning? The librarian's eyes widened as she took in the scene. Maya standing in the center of a circle of students, holding a paper cone, her face flushed but her voice steady. Maya, are you all right? I'm fine, Maya replied, and for the first time in years, she actually meant it. I was just explaining to my classmates about the fascinating etymology of various symbols. The crowd began to disperse, sensing that the entertainment was over. Brittany and her friends lingered, clearly frustrated that their plan had backfired so spectacularly. This isn't over, Brittany hissed as she walked past Maya. You think you're so smart, but you're still just a nobody. And nobody cares about your stupid facts. Maya watched her walk away, then turned to Mrs. Henderson. Could I speak with you for a moment? They walked toward the library entrance. Away from the remaining stragglers, Mrs. Henderson studied Maya's face with concern. Are you sure you're okay? What they did was completely inappropriate. I'm more than okay, Maya said, surprising herself with the truth of it. I think I'm ready for that academic competition you mentioned. Mrs. Henderson's eyebrows shot up. Really? What changed your mind? Maya looked down at the dunce cap in her hands, then back up at the librarian. I realized something today. I've been hiding my intelligence because I was afraid of being different. But being different isn't something to be ashamed of. It's something to be proud of. Maya, that's wonderful. But are you sure you're ready for the attention that comes with academic competition? It's not just about knowing the answers anymore. There will be interviews, presentations, possibly even media coverage if you do well. I think I am ready, Maya said, her voice growing stronger with each word. I've spent so long being invisible that I forgot I had a choice in the matter. Today reminded me that silence isn't always golden. Sometimes it's just giving other people permission to define who you are. Mrs. Henderson smiled, a warm expression that reached her eyes. I'm proud of you, Maya. This is a big step. As they walked into the library, Maya felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Excitement about the future. The building that had been her refuge for so long suddenly felt different, less like a hiding place and more like a launching pad. The competition is in 3 weeks, Mrs. Henderson explained as they reached her office. It's held at the state university, and students from all over the region will be participating. The format includes written examinations in mathematics, science, literature, and critical thinking, as well as oral presentations and collaborative problem-solving exercises. Maya nodded, her mind already racing with possibilities. What kind of preparation materials are available? I have study guides and practice tests from previous years. But honestly, Maya, I think your biggest challenge won't be the academic content. It'll be getting comfortable with being in the spotlight. That evening, Maya walked home with a different posture than usual. Her shoulders were straighter, her head held higher. The dunce cap was tucked carefully in her backpack, not as a symbol of shame, but as a reminder of the moment everything changed. Her parents were both home when she arrived, a rare occurrence given their work schedules. Her father, David, was reading a newspaper at the kitchen table while her mother, Linda, prepared dinner. "How was school today, sweetheart?" her mother asked, not looking up from the vegetables she was chopping. Maya paused, considering her answer. For years, her response had been the same, fine. But today felt different. "Actually, something interesting happened today," she said, setting down her backpack. "I've decided to enter an academic competition." Both parents looked up in surprise. David folded his newspaper and gave Maya his full attention. "What kind of competition?" "It's a statewide academic contest covering multiple subjects. Mrs. Henderson thinks I have a good chance of doing well." Linda set down her knife and turned to face her daughter. "Maya, that's wonderful. But are you sure you're ready for something like that? You've always been so quiet about your schoolwork." "I think it's time I stopped being quiet about a lot of things," Maya said, pulling out the dunce cap. "This is what some kids at school made for me today. They thought it would humiliate me." David's face darkened. "Someone did this to you. Who?" "I'll call the school right now." "Dad, it's okay," Maya said, holding up her hand. "Actually, it ended up being the best thing that could have happened to me. It made me realize that I've been letting other people's opinions control my life." She explained the afternoon's events, watching her parents' expressions change from anger to concern to something that looked like pride. "You stood up to them?" Linda asked, her voice filled with amazement. "I didn't fight them," Maya clarified. "I just used my brain. I realized that the things they saw as weaknesses were actually my strengths. My knowledge, my curiosity, my ability to think critically. These aren't things to hide from." David reached across the table and squeezed his daughter's hand. "We're proud of you, Maya. We've always known you were special, but we worried about you. You seemed so isolated." "I was isolated," Maya admitted, "but that was my choice. I chose to be invisible because I thought it was safer. But today I realized that invisible people can't change anything. They can't make a difference." Over the next few days, Maya threw herself into preparation for the competition with an intensity that surprised even her. She created study schedules, organized her notes, and began reaching out to teachers for additional resources. Mr. Rodriguez provided her with advanced chemistry problems. Mrs. Patterson gave her supplementary history texts and even her English teacher offered to help her practice presentation skills. But the most significant change was in Maya's behavior during classes. For the first time in her high school career, she began raising her hand. It started small. When Mr. Rodriguez asked about molecular bonding, Maya's hand went up. When Mrs. Patterson posed a question about the causes of World War I, Maya offered a thoughtful analysis that drew upon sources far beyond their textbook. Her classmates were initially shocked into silence. They had grown so accustomed to Maya's invisibility that her sudden participation felt almost surreal. But as the days passed, they began to pay attention to what she was saying, and some of them started to realize that the quiet girl in the back row might actually know what she was talking about. Brittany and her friends, however, were not pleased with this development. "She thinks she's so smart now," Brittany complained to Jessica as they walked to lunch. "Ever since that stupid dunce cap thing, she's been acting like she's better than everyone else." "Maybe we should do something about it," Jessica suggested. "Show her that she's still just a loser, no matter how many big words she uses." "I have an idea," Brittany said, a cruel smile spreading across her face. "The academic competition she's entering? It's public, right? Anyone can go watch." "I think so. Why?" "Because I think Maya needs to be reminded that she doesn't belong in the spotlight. And what better place to do that than in front of a whole audience?" Meanwhile, Maya was discovering something remarkable about herself. The more she spoke up in class, the more confident she became. It was as if years of stored knowledge and suppressed thoughts were finally finding their voice. She began to see connections between subjects that she had never noticed before, drawing links between historical events and scientific principles, between literature and mathematics. Mrs. Henderson noticed the change immediately. "You're like a different person," she observed during one of their study sessions. "It's remarkable what confidence can do." "I don't think it's confidence," Maya replied, looking up from a practice test. "I think it's the purpose. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm working toward something meaningful." "And what's that?" Maya considered the question carefully. "I want to prove that intelligence comes in many forms. That quiet doesn't mean stupid, and different doesn't mean wrong. I want to show people that the person they overlook might be the one with the most important things to say." As the competition date approached, Maya's transformation became even more apparent. She began dressing differently, not in expensive clothes, but in outfits that reflected her newfound confidence. She started making eye contact when she spoke, and her voice grew stronger and more assured. The dunce cap still sat on her desk at home, but now it served a different purpose. Instead of a symbol of humiliation, it had become a reminder of her own strength, proof that she could turn even the cruelest gesture into something empowering. Maya Chun was no longer the invisible girl who hid in the back of the classroom. She was becoming someone else entirely, someone who was ready to step into the light and show the world what she was truly capable of. The competition was only a week away, and Maya was ready to prove that sometimes the quietest voices have the most powerful things to say. The morning of the academic competition dawned crisp and clear, with autumn sunlight streaming through Maya's bedroom window. She had been awake since 5 a.m., not from nerves but from excitement. Her study materials were organized on her desk, her competition outfit laid out carefully, and her mind felt sharp and focused. At breakfast, her parents could barely contain their pride. Linda had taken the day off work to drive Maya to the university, while David had switched shifts so he could attend the competition as well. "Are you nervous?" Linda asked, pouring coffee into a travel mug. "Surprisingly, no," Maya replied, checking her bag one final time. "I feel ready. More ready than I've ever felt for anything." The drive to State University took 45 minutes, and Maya spent the time reviewing her notes one last time. But as they pulled into the parking lot, she noticed something that made her stomach drop. Brittany Walsh's bright red convertible was parked near the entrance, and she could see a group of familiar faces gathered around it. "Maya," her mother asked, noticing her daughter's sudden tension, "what's wrong?" Nothing, Maya said quickly, but her eyes remained fixed on the group of students from her school. Just ... some people from Riverside are here. David followed her gaze and frowned. Are those the kids who were bothering you? It's fine, Dad. This is a public event. They have every right to be here, but Maya's mind was racing. Why would Brittany and her friends drive all the way to the university just to watch an academic competition? They had never shown interest in educational events before. Something was wrong. The competition was being held in the university's main auditorium, a grand space with tiered seating that could accommodate nearly 1,000 people. Maya checked in at the registration table, receiving her name tag and competition materials. She was one of 43 students from across the region, representing 22 different schools that, as she looked around at her fellow competitors, Maya felt a moment of doubt. These students looked confident, polished, and accomplished. Many wore blazers with Academic Honor Society pins, and she could hear them discussing their various achievements and awards. Maya Chun, Riverside High School, a warm voice said beside her. Maya turned to see a tall boy with kind eyes and a friendly smile extending his hand. I'm Marcus Williams from Eastside Prep. I've heard great things about your school's academic program. Maya shook his hand, grateful for the friendly gesture. Thank you. Your school has an excellent reputation, too. First time at a state competition? Marcus asked. Yes, actually. You? Third time. I placed second last year, hoping to do better this time. He gestured toward the other competitors. Don't let all the fancy uniforms intimidate you. Half of these kids are here because their parents pushed them into it. The real competitors are the ones who are here because they love learning. Maya smiled, feeling some of her tension ease. Which category are you in? All of them, Marcus grinned. You? Same. I couldn't choose just one subject. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Eleanor Vasquez, the competition coordinator. She was a distinguished woman in her 60s with silver hair and intelligent eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Welcome, students, to the 47th Annual State Academic Competition, Dr. Vasquez announced. You represent the brightest minds in our region, and today you have the opportunity to showcase your knowledge, critical thinking skills, and intellectual curiosity. She explained the competition format: 3 rounds of written examinations, followed by oral presentations for the top scorers, and finally collaborative problem-solving exercises. The entire event would be streamed live on the university's website and broadcast on local educational television. Your parents, teachers, and communities are here to support you, Dr. Vasquez continued. Remember, this competition is not just about winning. It's about celebrating the pursuit of knowledge and the joy of learning. Maya glanced toward the audience and spotted her parents in the 3rd row, beaming with pride. But she also noticed Brittany and her group, who had claimed seats in the back corner. They seemed to be whispering among themselves and occasionally pointing toward the competition area. The first round began with mathematics. Maya took her seat at one of the individual desks that had been arranged on the stage, acutely aware of the cameras and the audience watching. The problems were challenging, covering everything from advanced calculus to number theory. But Maya found herself falling into a familiar rhythm as she worked through a particularly complex probability problem. She heard a commotion from the audience. Someone was speaking loudly enough to be heard over the scratching of pencils and the quiet concentration of the competitors. I can't believe she's actually up there, a familiar voice said, just loud enough to carry to the stage. Maya Chun. Pretending to be smart, Maya's hand froze over her paper. She looked up to see Brittany leaning forward in her seat, speaking to the people around her in a stage whisper that was clearly intended to be heard. She's in my history class, Brittany continued. Never speak up, never participate. I bet she's cheating somehow. Dr. Vasquez appeared at the edge of the stage, her expression stern. Audience members, Please maintain silence during the examination periods. Any further disruptions will result in removal from the premises. Maya tried to refocus on her work, but the damage was done. Her concentration was broken, and she found herself second-guessing answers she knew were correct. The remaining problems seemed harder, and she finished with less confidence than she had started with. During the break between rounds, Maya's parents approached her. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" Linda asked, her voice filled with concern. "You looked upset during that last section." "I'm fine," Maya said, but her voice lacked conviction. There are some distractions in the audience." David's expression darkened. "Those kids from your school?" "Dad, please, I can handle this." "Maya," her father said gently, "you don't have to handle everything alone. Sometimes it's okay to ask for help." But Maya shook her head. "This is my competition. I need to do this myself." The second round focused on science, and Maya felt more confident as she tackled questions about chemistry, physics, and biology. But again, Brittany's voice cut through the silence. "Look at her pretending to know what she's doing," Brittany whispered loudly, "probably just guessing on everything." This time, Dr. Vasquez didn't just warn the disruptive audience members. She walked directly to their section and spoke to them quietly but firmly. Maya couldn't hear what was said, but she saw Brittany's face flush with anger. The third round was literature and critical thinking, Maya's strongest subjects. She approached the questions with renewed confidence, drawing on her extensive reading and analytical skills. The problems asked her to analyze complex texts, identify logical fallacies, and construct coherent arguments. But as she worked on a particularly challenging essay, question about the role of symbolism in modern literature, she heard something that made her blood run cold. "She's not even that smart," Brittany was saying, her voice now raised to normal speaking volume. "I bet her parents are doing her homework for her. I mean, look at them. They're probably just as stupid as she is." Maya's pen stopped moving. She looked up to see her parents' faces, her mother's expression hurt and confused, her father's jaw clenched with barely controlled anger. Around them, other audience members were beginning to look uncomfortable, and some were shushing Brittany. "And her friends. Her dad's just a janitor," Brittany continued, her voice carrying clearly across the auditorium. "And her mom works at a nursing home. What could they possibly know about academics? Maya's probably been getting special help this whole time." Maya felt something break inside her chest. She could handle attacks on herself, but watching her parents' faces crumble under the weight of Brittany's cruelty was unbearable. Her father, who worked nights to support their family, who had taught himself to read when he was 25, had always encouraged Maya's love of learning despite never having had the same opportunities himself. Her mother, who had sacrificed her own dreams to work double shifts so Maya could have books and supplies. Dr. Vasquez was already moving toward the disruptive section, but Maya stood up from her desk. The entire auditorium fell silent as she set down her pen and walked to the edge of the stage. "Excuse me," Maya said, her voice carrying clearly across the space. "I'd like to address something before we continue." Dr. Vasquez paused, looking uncertain. "Miss Chun, the examination period isn't over yet." "I understand," Maya replied, her voice steady despite the emotion in her chest. "But I think there's been a misunderstanding that needs to be cleared up." She looked directly at Brittany, who was now sitting frozen in her seat, clearly not expecting this response. "My name is Maya Chun," she began, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I am 17 years old, and I am a student at Riverside High School. I am here today not because of special help or cheating, but because I love learning. I love the way mathematics can describe the patterns in nature, the way literature can help us understand the human experience, and the way science can reveal the mysteries of our universe." The auditorium was completely silent now, every eye fixed on Maya. "My father is indeed a janitor," she continued, her voice filled with pride rather than shame. He works the night shift at Memorial Hospital, ensuring that the facilities are clean and safe for patients and staff. He didn't have the opportunity to finish high school, but he taught himself to read as an adult because he wanted to help me with my homework. My mother works at Sunset Manor, caring for elderly residents who can no longer care for themselves. She works double shifts to support our family, and she has never once complained about the sacrifice. Maya's eyes swept across the audience, taking in the faces of her fellow competitors, the judges, and the parents who had come to support their children. "I am proud to be their daughter," she said, her voice now ringing with conviction. "Their work has value, their sacrifices have meaning, and their love has given me the strength to stand here today. Intelligence isn't determined by your parents, job titles, or your family's bank account. It's determined by your curiosity, your dedication, and your willingness to learn." She turned back to look at Brittany, who was now slouched in her seat, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. "As for the suggestion that I'm not smart enough to be here," Maya continued, "I invite anyone who doubts my abilities to review my work. Every answer I give today will be my own, based on knowledge I've gained through years of reading, studying, and thinking. I'm not here to prove anything to people who have already made up their minds about me. I'm here to challenge myself and to celebrate the joy of learning alongside other students who share that passion." She paused, looking around the auditorium one more time. "Now, if it's all right with everyone, I'd like to finish my examination." The applause started slowly, with one person clapping, then another, until the entire auditorium was filled with the sound of appreciation. Maya's parents were beaming, tears streaming down their faces. Her fellow competitors were applauding enthusiastically, and even some of the judges were nodding in approval. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her expression one of admiration. "Miss Chen, that was beautifully said. Please return to your examination." As Maya walked back to her desk, she felt different. Not because of the applause or the approval of strangers, but because she had finally found her voice. She had stood up not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever been underestimated or dismissed because of their circumstances. She picked up her pen and returned to her essay, and the words flowed easier than they ever had before. She wrote about the power of perseverance, the importance of looking beyond surface appearances, and the way that true intelligence reveals itself not in boasting or showing off, but in the quiet dedication to understanding the world around us. When she finished, Maya set down her pen and looked up to see Marcus Williams at the desk next to her, giving her a subtle thumbs up. Around the auditorium, she noticed that Brittany and her friends were nowhere to be seen. Dr. Vasquez approached the microphone for the final time. "Ladies and gentlemen, the written examination portion of our competition is now complete. We will take a short break while the judges review the results, and then we'll announce the students who will advance to the oral presentation round." Maya gathered her materials and walked toward her parents, who met her at the edge of the stage with embraces that felt like coming home. "We are so proud of you," her mother whispered, "not just for your academic work, but for your courage. You stood up for all of us today. You found your voice," her father added, his own voice thick with emotion. "And it's even more beautiful than I imagined it would be." As they waited for the results, Maya realized that regardless of whether she advanced to the next round, she had already won something far more valuable than any trophy or recognition. She had won the right to be herself, completely and unapologetically. Girl who had hidden in the back of classrooms was gone forever. In her place stood someone who was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, armed with knowledge, confidence, and the unshakable belief that she belonged anywhere her mind could take her. The results were announced. 15 minutes later, Dr. Vasquez returned to the podium with a list in her hands and a smile that suggested the judges had been impressed by what they had witnessed. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, I've been coordinating this competition for 12 years, and I can honestly say that this has been one of the most remarkable groups of students we've ever seen. The quality of work, the depth of knowledge, and the maturity demonstrated today have been exceptional. Maya held her breath as Dr. Vasquez continued. The following 8 students will advance to the oral presentation round. Marcus Williams from Eastside Prep, Sarah Kim from Lincoln Academy, James Thompson from Westfield High. Maya's heart pounded as the names were called. She had given everything she had to those exams, but the disruptions from Brittany had shaken her confidence more than she wanted to admit. Elena Rodriguez from Riverside Tech, Michael Chang from St. Mary's Preparatory, ... 3 names left. Maya felt her mother's hand squeeze hers. David Park from Central High, Maya Chun from Riverside High School, ... The words hit Maya like a thunderbolt. She had made it. Despite everything, despite the sabotage attempts and the emotional turmoil, her work had been strong enough to advance to the final round. And finally, Jessica Miller from North Point Academy. The applause was enthusiastic, and Maya found herself surrounded by congratulations from other competitors and their families. Marcus Williams appeared at her side, grinning broadly. "I told you the real competitors were the ones who love learning," he said. "That speech you gave was incredible. You've got everyone talking." "I just said what needed to be said," Maya replied, still somewhat in shock at making the final round. "That's exactly what made it so powerful," Marcus said. "You were authentic. That's going to serve you well in the presentations." Dr. Vasquez approached Maya directly. "Miss Chun, could I have a word with you privately?" Maya's stomach tightened, wondering if there had been some problem with her exams or her speech. She followed Dr. Vasquez to a quiet corner near the stage. "I wanted to tell you personally," Dr. Vasquez began, "that your written examinations were among the strongest we've seen in years. Your mathematics score was perfect, your science work was exceptional, and your literature essay was, well, it was extraordinary." Maya felt a surge of pride mixed with disbelief. "Thank you. That means everything to me. But more than that," Dr. Vasquez continued, "what you did today when you addressed the audience showed a level of maturity and courage that goes far beyond academic achievement. You demonstrated real leadership, and that's something that can't be taught or tested." "I just couldn't let them attack my parents," Maya said quietly. "They've sacrificed too much for me to let anyone diminish what they've done." "That's exactly what I mean," Dr. Vasquez smiled. "The oral presentation round will begin in 30 minutes. You'll have 10 minutes to present on a topic of your choice, followed by questions from our panel of judges. Do you have a topic in mind?" Maya thought for a moment. "I think I do, yes." As Dr. Vasquez walked away, Maya rejoined her parents, who were practically glowing with excitement. "We're so proud of you," her father said, pulling her into another embrace. "Making it to the final round is already more than we ever dreamed." "This is just the beginning, Dad," Maya said, surprised by her own confidence. "I have a presentation to give, and I think I know exactly what I want to talk about." The next 30 minutes passed quickly as Maya outlined her presentation. She had initially planned to discuss quantum computing or advances in renewable energy, topics that showcased her technical knowledge. But after the events of the day, she realized there was something more important she wanted to share. When the oral presentation round began, Maya was scheduled to go 5th out of the 8 finalists. She watched as her fellow competitors delivered impressive presentations on everything from artificial intelligence to ancient civilizations. Each presentation was polished, well-researched, and expertly delivered. Marcus went 3rd, giving a fascinating talk about the mathematics of music theory that had the judges asking thoughtful follow-up questions. When he finished, he gave Maya an encouraging nod as he returned to his seat. "Next, we have Maya Chun from Riverside High School," Dr. Vasquez announced. Maya walked to the podium, her heart racing but her mind clear. She looked out at the audience, taking in the faces of her parents, her fellow competitors, and the judges who would evaluate her performance. In the back, she noticed that Brittany and her friends had returned, apparently curious about what Maya would do in the final round. "Good afternoon," Maya began, her voice steady and clear. "My presentation today is titled The Hidden Curriculum. What we learn when we think we're not learning anything." She clicked to her first slide, which showed a simple image of a dunce cap. 2 weeks ago, a group of students at my school presented this to me with this, Maya said, gesturing to the image. They intended it as a symbol of my stupidity, a public declaration that I didn't belong in advanced classes or academic competitions like this one. A murmur went through the audience. The judges leaned forward, clearly intrigued by this unexpected opening. But as I researched the history of this symbol, I discovered something fascinating. The dunce cap was originally worn by followers of John Duns Scotus, a brilliant 13th century philosopher whose ideas were so advanced that they weren't fully understood until centuries later. The pointed cap was designed to funnel wisdom from the heavens, and wearing one was actually a mark of scholarly achievement. Maya clicked to her next slide, showing medieval manuscripts depicting scholars in pointed caps. This got me thinking about how symbols, ideas, and even people can be completely misunderstood based on surface appearances. In education, we often focus on what we call the official curriculum, the subjects that appear on transcripts and standardized tests. But there's another curriculum that's equally important, the hidden curriculum of resilience, empathy, critical thinking, and the courage to stand up for what's right. She looked directly at the judges as she continued. I learned more about myself and my capabilities in the moment when those students tried to humiliate me than I had in years of traditional classroom instruction. I learned that knowledge without courage is meaningless, that intelligence without compassion is hollow, and that true education happens not just when we absorb information, but when we learn to transform that information into wisdom. Maya clicked. A slide showing diverse images of students from different backgrounds. Too often in our society, we make assumptions about intelligence based on superficial factors, how someone dresses, how much money their family has, whether they speak up in class or prefer to listen. We create hierarchies that have nothing to do with actual ability and everything to do with privilege and social expectations. She paused, looking out at the audience. But real intelligence isn't about performing for others or fitting into predefined categories. It's about curiosity, persistence, and the willingness to keep learning even when, especially when, others doubt your capabilities. Maya's next slide showed statistics about academic achievement and socioeconomic status. Students from low-income families are consistently underrepresented in advanced academic programs, not because they lack ability, but because they lack opportunity and support. When we judge a student's potential based on their parents' education level or their family's financial situation, we perpetuate a system that wastes human talent. She clicked to her final slide, which showed a simple equation: knowledge plus courage. Compassion equals wisdom. The hidden curriculum teaches us that true education is about more than accumulating facts or earning high test scores. It's about developing the character to use our knowledge in service of something greater than ourselves. It's about learning to see beyond surface appearances, to recognize potential in unexpected places, and to stand up for those who haven't yet found their voice. Maya looked directly at Brittany in the back of the auditorium. When someone tries to diminish you, they're often revealing more about their own insecurities than about your limitations. The student who mocks another's intelligence may be struggling with their own academic performance. The person who judges others based on their clothes or background may be insecure about their own identity. She turned back to the judges. Education at its best doesn't just fill our minds with information. It opens our hearts to possibility. It teaches us that a quiet student might be processing complex ideas, that a student from a working-class family might have insights that come from real-world experience, and that sometimes the most important lessons happen outside the classroom. Maya paused, letting her words settle over the audience. The dunce cap that was meant to shame me became a symbol of transformation. It reminded me that symbols, like people, are often misunderstood. And it taught me that the most powerful response to ignorance isn't anger or retaliation, it's education. Not just sharing facts, but sharing perspective, empathy, and hope. She smiled, feeling more confident than she ever had in her life. Thank you for listening and for creating a space where students can share not just their knowledge, but their stories. The applause was immediate and sustained. Maya saw her parents wiping away tears, her fellow competitors nodding in approval, and even some of the audience members in the back looking thoughtful rather than dismissive. Dr. Martinez, the lead judge, leaned forward to ask the first question. Miss Chun, that was a powerful presentation. Can you elaborate on how educational institutions might better support students who don't fit traditional molds? Maya felt her mind engage with the question, and her response flowed naturally, drawing on research she had done, personal experiences, and creative solutions she had developed. The questions continued for several minutes, covering everything from educational policy to individual teacher practices. When the questioning ended, Maya returned to her seat feeling exhausted but exhilarated. She had said everything she wanted to say, shared everything she believed was important. The judges deliberated for 20 minutes, while the finalists and their families waited in suspense. When Dr. Vasquez returned to announce the results, the entire auditorium fell silent. This year's competition has been remarkable in many ways, she began. We've seen exceptional academic achievement, innovative thinking, and inspiring leadership. The judges had a difficult decision to make. Maya held her breath. Third place goes to Marcus Williams from Eastside Prep for his outstanding presentation on mathematical applications in music theory. Marcus stood to accept his award, grinning and giving Maya a thumbs up as he walked to the stage. Second place goes to Sarah Kim from Lincoln Academy for her comprehensive analysis of renewable energy technologies. One name left for first place. Maya felt her heart pounding so hard, she was sure everyone around her could hear it. And first place, along with a full scholarship to State University, goes to Maya Chen from Riverside High School. The words seemed to echo in slow motion. Maya felt her mother's arms around her, heard her father's proud whoops, and saw her fellow competitors applauding enthusiastically. But more than that, she felt a deep sense of completion, as if everything in her life had been leading to this moment. As she walked to the stage to accept her award, Maya caught sight of Brittany and her friends heading for the exit. But instead of satisfaction at their departure, Maya felt something unexpected: pity. They would leave this place having learned nothing, having grown not at all. Dr. Vasquez handed Maya a beautiful crystal trophy and an official scholarship certificate. Miss Chun, she said quietly, in all my years of coordinating this competition, I've never seen a student combine academic excellence with such powerful leadership. You're going to do remarkable things. As Maya stood on the stage holding her trophy and looking out at the audience, she thought about the journey that had brought her here. From the quiet girl hiding in the back of classrooms to the confident young woman who had just won a state academic competition, it seemed impossible that so much could change in such a short time. But Maya realized that the change hadn't happened overnight. It had been building for years, in every book she had read in secret, every problem she had solved alone in her room, every moment she had chosen learning over popularity. The dunce cap incident hadn't created her intelligence or her strength. It had simply forced her to reveal what had always been there. Later that evening, at the family celebration dinner at Maya's favorite restaurant, her father raised his glass of soda in a toast. To Maya, he said, his voice thick with emotion, Who taught us that sometimes the greatest victories come not from being the loudest person in the room, but from being the most thoughtful? To quiet strength, her mother added, and to never underestimate the power of a curious mind. Maya smiled, thinking about the scholarship that would allow her to pursue her dreams, the recognition that validated years of hard work, and most importantly, the voice she had finally found. To second chances, Maya said, raising her own glass, and to remembering that every ending is really just a new beginning. As they clinked glasses, Maya caught her reflection in the restaurant window. The girl looking back at her was confident, accomplished, and ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. She was exactly who Maya had always been inside, just no longer afraid to let the world see it. The dunce cap was at home on her desk, but it would never again represent shame or limitation. Instead, it stood as a reminder that the greatest transformations often begin with the moments when we're forced to choose between hiding and shining. Maya Chun had chosen to shine, and the world would never look the same. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.